was when we did the Vegas backdrop.
Okay. Vegas. I think. What is that? Can't remember. Oh, we're live. All right, you want to count us down there, A-Rock? Welcome to the show, folks. Jason Bible. I got Brian Buhr here today. We're talking a little bit about money. This is Texas Real Estate Radio Network. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Yeah. Big
I
news.
bet you were at soccer last night, right?
Had a game at 7:30.
I bet it was. I was out on the bike, so the weather was wicked
Beautiful.
last night. It was incredible. Just a little cool,
Mm-hmm.
but enough to where you'd sweat, but you didn't like fill up your shoes with your own sweat, right?
Did you wear the hat, the metal? Do you wear a hat when you ride a bicycle?
Yeah, I wear a helmet. Yeah.
That's what they call it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have to. You know, it's so funny. Somebody made fun of me one time. Like, you wear a helmet? I'm like, I crash about every year to 2 years. Oh. And if I don't have that helmet on, you don't have another business partner. I can tell you that right now. When you're going that fast, you hit hard.
Do you?
Yeah. So the last one I actually I had the bike come out underneath me on a water crossing, and I hit the back of my skull first. My brains would have been just splattered all over the place. Yeah. So you got to wear it.
Dangerous.
It is dangerous. At those speeds, it's dangerous. So anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're a note buyer, right? And you've done note buying and all that stuff. So you've got a new note buying program.
Yeah, actually, I think a new area that's been developed out of the the Texas Real Estate Network is that we do have a note segment now that we're starting to do now. And it's kind of the best of both worlds. You have passive investors that are sitting on the sidelines, and then the properties that you and Rob have within your portfolio. Like sometimes you just want to reduce the cost of capital, so you can create an opportunity there where people can lend on these for a short period of time, and there's a real opportunity where they can sit as a passive investor and collect an interest check.
Yeah.
So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the ways that you can really passively invest in real estate.
Right.
Which you could, I mean, they tell you buying rental properties is passive. You've owned rental properties in the past, and I almost feel like you could say they're not as passive as everyone believes, right?
Even with good tenants, they take work. I mean, things will go wrong on the property. Things break naturally, but you do have to stay in contact with that tenant. You have to take, in order to keep a good tenants, you have to take care of the property, and it is work.
Yeah, it's always going to be a little bit of work.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about today?
We have some big news that came through the doors yesterday. I'm sure we can't go into full disclosure on what exactly it is, but it's pretty big. You made an announcement yesterday on Facebook. Big acquisition coming. An offer was accepted. Yeah,
offer was accepted on a group of properties. We're thinking the entire acquisition is going to be right at $20 million.
Yeah.
It's going to double the number of doors that we've got. So it's pretty exciting. It's a really big deal for us. Like I said, we're really excited about it. It's, you kind of peck around some of these deals, and then eventually one pops, right? And this one popped in a big way. We're going to take down the assets in two tranches. So in other words, two transactions, if you will. One will be over the next 6 months. We'll probably close 6-7 months from now, and then the second one, which will be the other half of the package, probably closer to the end of 2021. But yeah, we're excited. It's going to be a really fun deal. This is a very traditional multifamily deal. Like a lot of the multifamily that we buy, these properties are wrecked. I mean, you've walked them, right? The last one we bought, actually the worst one I think I've ever seen is the one we bought on South Loop. That's part of the Inner Loop syndication. And I remember walking it and thinking, I can't tell where one apartment starts and the other one ends. Like it's that bad, right? And after demo, I'm like, oh, now I can actually see the units, right? I mean, it was that bad. But we've got a construction company over here, so we do, we're able to do massive rehabs. 99% of apartment investors out there, what they call syndicators or lead investors, don't have that construction skill set. Yeah. So this is what I like to call this current deal that we got accepted. Is what I like to call a more traditional multifamily deal. They're already stabilized, they're already rented, they're already rehabbed. All we're doing is we're going in and taking over the project, and over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to increase rents to market rents. Right. So the current investor bought them a couple of years ago, rehabbed them, and put tenants in there, but took a lot of rent concessions in order to fill the buildings up, right? And then he's going to sell them. So he did a fantastic rehab, did a great job on the buildings, but he doesn't really want to operate it for another couple of years and stabilize, increase rents and all that other stuff. So we're totally cool with that. So now it's our turn as a yield play to come in there and buy them and increase rents and hold on to them and pick up probably make another $4 million out of them.
Yeah.
So pretty exciting. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to take about 6 months to get the first set of these properties closed, and then another 6 for the next ones.
Well, maybe we can explain some things for the viewers. Is the difference between a value add play, like some of the things we've purchased in the past, like the one on the inner loop, versus a yield play that's already.
Yeah. So a good example of the two is a value play is you're buying something that's greatly distressed. It should scare you when you get on the property. Like that's usually, and I don't mean from the occupants, although that could certainly, the tenants, although that could certainly be the case, right? But I mean the driveways are ripped up. There's no parking. There's the parking structures are dilapidated. The building's falling apart. I mean, it is a de-stressed asset. Like I said, if it doesn't scare you, then it's probably not that play, right? And that's probably not a value play. And then a yield play is really where you're going in and you're decreasing some expenses. Like, it's already stabilized. It's already beautiful. Maybe they need paint, countertops. It's not like a big rehab. It's more like a higher end make ready. So, look, your monitor's here.
It's big.
Yeah, that's us.
That
Thanks, man.
wide,
Yeah, we're good. It's funny. For those of you who can't see the show, our studio's right at the front of the building, which we thought would be really cool, right? Like people walk in and, oh my gosh, the studio's right at the front of your building. I can see it. But the delivery guys come in when we're doing the show, and although it's encased in glass, we're like, no, it's good. No, that's ours. Put it down. No, we can't sign for it. We're in the middle of a show. Right. Anyway, very professional how we run this show.
It works.
It works, yeah. So the yield play is really that highly distressed asset. And then, the value play is that really distressed asset. It's scary. It's a big piece of junk, right? And the yield play, you're going in, it's a minor rehab. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're putting on some siding, you're resurfacing some parking surfaces, but you're getting rid of some trees and putting up some fences, but you're not doing like a huge, let me put it this way, you're not applying for an occupancy certificate. That's probably the difference between the two. Yeah. You're not doing fire suppression, you're not doing any of that crazy stuff. You're really just going in, updating some stuff, mm-hmm. and then just increasing the rents. That's really how that process works. So this is our first yield play that we've done. I assume we're going to do just fine at it, because if you can do the yield play, you can do the value play, you can certainly do the yield play, right? Right. Just a little less construction. Actually, what's funny is Rob said, oh my gosh, the first property we've bought that doesn't need $30,000 at a door in rehab. Yeah. So this is going to be a kind of as compared to Corpus Christi, right? And
it's a lot of the train wreck.
Yeah, that's just a train wreck. So that's really the difference between the two. So big announcement for us. It's going to double the size of our portfolio. We're going to be up to, at a minimum, we're projected by the end of 2021 to have 600 units, and that's only if we close what we have today. Yeah. So
that's fantastic.
Next year, I imagine we're going to buy another 100 to 200 units. We're probably going to end up, I don't think we'll get to 1,000, but I could see us at 800, 800. So that's where we're at right now.
You're building up to the dream, of selling out for $1 billion. And
I want to get to $1 billion. That's right.
To $1 billion.
$1 billion before 50. I got 8 years to do it.
Well, that's one of the things from an investor standpoint. A lot of the folks that I speak to on the phone is when they participate in a syndication, one of the things they like to understand is distributions. Mm-hmm. And with something like a value add play where it's distressed, you do have to stabilize it. It does take time. You can't expect your distribution to come immediately. Yield plays may be a little different, where it's already cash flowing. The net operating income it's paying for itself. It's turning off cash or spinning off cash. Yeah. So that's usually the questions I get asked from investors is how quickly can they?
Yeah, and on those yield plays, I mean, we tell folks, we're like, hey, look, it's probably going to be a year. But in our syndication documents, and they said, well, what's realistic? I said, look, could be 2. Yeah. Because the rehab's going to take 6 or 8 months, could take a year. Granted, as we rehab units, we're going to be putting people in them, but we've got carrying costs with the mezzanine financing, which is a little bit more expensive than kind of like a Fannie Mae small balance program. So we got some financing costs there and that sort of thing. So, the yield plays, but the value play, there's a whole bunch more equity. Like there's a lot of bang on the back end, right? Yeah. Like it's awesome. On the yield play, you can start paying next quarter. Yeah. The first, maybe it's 6 months out. Like it's not, all you're really doing is once you've established your reserves, you got a good operating capital, then you kind of move on. How much time do we have? I can't see.
He's 30.
Oh, is he counting it down?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes. Jason Bible, Brian Buhr, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. You keep giving me the stink eye. I'm like, what is it? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. You guys are signing like you're doing baseball signs over there.
We need to have how about this? I have a clock on my phone here.
We need well, once we get all this stuff set up, we'll have the big screen that comes down from there. It's funny.
Ready?
All right, welcome back. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with Brian Buhr. So, oh my gosh, somebody just sent an email. That is not what I asked them to do. I should check my emails during the break. So, all right, so we're talking about that first deal, right?
Right.
So, really great package.
Beautiful package.
Beautiful package.
Yeah.
At the same time, yesterday, we also picked up a 50 unit. So, we're going to go look at that Friday. A 50 unit, we're probably going to put 1.3 million into. Mm-hmm. It needs everything. So that would be an example of a value play there, as opposed to the yield play for something that's already stabilized. This thing's vacant, needs a complete retrofit. We're gonna bring in an architect and completely redesign the facility. It's currently set up as an 80 unit. We can do it as a 50. We might do it as 60. Who knows? But there's a lot of common area and interstitial space, if you guys are familiar with an architectural term, because of what the facility is now. Mm-hmm. So changing it to a multifamily is going to be a little more challenging. But it's going to be a great deal. We'll be in for 1.5, 1.6. Probably when it gets done, $4 million is a pretty accurate valuation. So let's say we're in for $2 million. It's worth $4 million. We made $2 million in 3 years. So not a bad little deal.
Day.
Not a bad day at the office. Yesterday wasn't a bad day. Put $2 million on that deal and probably make 4 to 6 on the other. It was almost $10 million day. Can't complain.
You know what's so funny is a lot of the books that I've been recently going through have all been syndicated based, because I want to like really fully understand a lot of the things that's going on. And it's funny how the introduction of all these books, the authors of it, they say how syndication or multifamily investment has really just changed their life. Like they were doing this particular, like an engineer or something. And they kind of ran with it, where they started doing their first multifamily deal, and they gradually scaled it to where it's like now they're teaching other people how to do it. And I just love the fact that, we're buying these assets, we're scaling up, like the 200 unit that came in, the 200 plus unit that came in. And it's just leading to all these other opportunities, because now people are pushing them towards you, saying, hey, look, you're one of the few people in town that can take this and run with it. And then you can have all these passive investors kind of ride with you. And I don't know where I was going with that, other than the fact that syndication's a neat business if you get the right team in place.
Yeah, it's great. But you also bring up a point that staying power is important. People think like, oh, you start in this business and that's where you start, like getting $2 and $20 million deals. I'm like, that's not how it starts. I put a post out yesterday on commitment, and what people don't understand, the most critical factor in success is committing to something. And I'm going to do another post on the first deal I lost money on. Like, let's play a little juxtaposition here. We've got a $20 million deal that came in this year, but I'll tell you what, if I didn't do the deal that I lost $250,000 on, this other deal that I'm going to make $4 to $5 million on would have never come. Right. And so many investors are like, Jason, it's not working for me, or I'm getting my butt kicked over here. I'm like, you don't understand that the hardship is what tempers your commitment. Yeah. Like, it's a test for a reason.
Sure. And
I firmly believe, you can call this God or the master of the universe, whatever, but I firmly believe that when you are tested, the answer to the test is not to run, not to leave. Like you sit down. I'll never forget one of the worst classes I ever had was organic chemistry. I was a science major, and I failed it my first semester. We started out with 60 people in the class. I think 4 of us took the final. 2 of us knew we were going to fail. Like going in, we knew we were going to fail.
Yeah.
Now, why would you go into a final that you knew you were going to fail? Because you're going to see that again. So what a lot of people in life in general, they don't develop the fortitude to withstand the negative things in their life because they don't realize that, hey, you're going to see that again. So how do we get around that, right? I could have changed my degree like so many other people did, but if I did that, I wouldn't be here. I can tell you that unequivocally, right? So you can go back in your life and you can look at these hardships and you can say, well, what hardship did I avoid and what equities did I miss out on because I didn't push through that, right? I see it with investors all the time. We're seeing it in our mastermind group right now where some folks are passing on deals and then they're looking back and they're like, holy cow, I should have done that deal. And I'm like, yes. Yeah. Yes, it was going to be hard in the short term, but in the long term, it pays off. One of the things I said in that post, in that email is, hey guys, I have 100% of the time, I've never gone through a hardship and said, wow, that really wasn't worth it.
Right. Yeah.
Like it wasn't. I mean, you go back to your medical background. How many times was it really hard? You guys are sweating payroll and all that other nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, it would be really easy to quit and go work for somebody else.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Go work for somebody else, be told what to do, when to show up. And I figured if you're going to work most of your life anyway, do something that you can learn every single day at and have fun with people that are ultimately trying to help you get to where you want to go. Real estate's the only industry that I know that can do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't, this is one of the things, I was talking about stress one day, and I said the stress is different, but I said you cannot put a price on working with people, avoiding people you don't want to work with because they're just jerks. Like that's, you don't have to deal with, you got to think like your old company or working for a company, let's say you're on something like, if you guys are familiar with the term, a cross-functional team, like, okay, we need HR wants to put a group together. We're going to update the HR employee manual, and we need a cross-functional team of managers and a senior executive staff to help us with this project. This happened all the time with places I used to work. I'm like, and of course I would get selected. Like, Jason, we think you'd be really great for that. I'm like, why? So anyways, you get stuck on one of these cross-functional teams where you're working with people across all different disciplines and departments. And sure enough, here's Susie from accounting. And I don't know what she gets paid for, but it seems like she gets paid for the length and girth of her emails. Oh, yeah. So here you are on some kind of side project for work, and you're getting these 7-page tirades about something, and it's negative Nancy, right? But then when you go to work for yourself, you don't have to work with negative Nancy anymore. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, you can carve out those people.
That's right. And it adds a lot of it's a little bit different stress, but it's not as stressful as working for somebody else, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, those backgrounds, coming from the industries that you and I came from, if I had to do that for another 20 years, I'm like, I just turned 41 a couple days ago, but like to do that another 20 years, I'd be dead.
Yeah,
I feel bad, honestly. Some of my close friends that are still in that industry, like I'm trying to help them get out of it by offering them things that we're doing in real estate to kind of change their lives, get them free, if you will. And because there are some lifers in the medical business.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
They're still showing up at 60 years old, going to the OR and being told what to do by the nurses. Have you checked in? Lady, get out of my face.
Yeah.
Just let me go make money.
I was hanging out with one of my old bosses, and he was kind of giving me the update. I used to work in healthcare, mostly in acute care and biomedical research. And he was kind of telling me, of course, the coronavirus stuff is real big right now. And I'm just hearing all these stories, and I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I'm not doing that. Don't get me wrong. There are days that I miss some things, but I'm like, whew, glad I'm not doing that.
Oh, my gosh. Early mornings, weekends, putting on a suit, doing trade shows.
Yeah.
We had to wine and dine a lot of people that normally I would never hang out with, in that industry.
5 a.m. in the OR is awful. It's freezing. You drove across town. You got up at like 3:30. It's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't miss it at all. Now it was funny because we can pretty much do what we want to do anytime we want. I know we're coming up on the clock here, but it's like freedom is one of the main drivers for me to continue to pursue this and to be around like-minded individuals and to invest, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, it has, absolutely. So how much time do we have, A-Rock? Do you see this?
20 seconds.
Oh, okay, perfect. I can't imagine going into another field right now after. Well, unless I was working for myself, I'm not sure. I don't know. If Elon Musk calls, I might
He said 3 seconds.
3 seconds. All right. We'll be back.
We'll get this timed later. A-Rock, we should have put you behind the glass.
Yeah, there you go.
Instead of in the garden over there. I'm so excited. My monitor came in. I got the chair in now.
Oh, you're like an adult. Brian and I have been sharing a desk for like a month.
That's right. I've been working on the ground, the floor.
Sitting cross-legged.
Cross-legged.
What they don't call it Indian style. It's called crisscross applesauce.
In school, that's what they call it now?
Yeah, because Indian style is.
That's.
Yes. That is something that is not good. So they call it crisscross applesauce.
Crisscross applesauce. I can't do that anymore.
I grew up when I was a kid, I spent 4 years in Japan. People have not caught me doing this. Yeah, I lived in Japan for a while. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I've lived all over the place.
I really need to just sit down and just ask you questions.
Yeah, I lived in Germany. I've lived in Japan. I went to undergrad in Germany for a while.
I can guarantee nobody knew that.
Nobody, I bet they didn't. Yeah, I've lived all over the place. Man, you could put me in like the worst place in the world. I'm completely comfortable. Like I traveled all over the place before I even got into college. That's why I'm just kind of comfortable anywhere.
That should be another segment another time. Is where has Jason done real estate?
Yeah,
Japan, Germany.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Oh, so anyways, the Japan story. Yeah, we'll go ahead and fire it back up. I'll tell the rest of the story. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about sitting Indian style, which is now called crisscross applesauce, according to my kids.
It's a way cooler name.
It's way cooler. So anyways, growing up in Japan, you used to eat on the floor, right? I mean, that's kind of what they do there. So if there's carpet, I can't do it on a wood floor because it just grinds my ankles. But if there's a rug out and we're like watching TV, like I literally just sit on the floor and eat.
You can still do it.
Yeah, just
crisscross
applesauce, not Indian style. You horrible person, you.
God, so
I said crisscross applesauce, and I'll sit there and eat on the floor.
Nothing's safe anymore.
I know. This is not a
politically correct.
Yeah, we just lost 75,000 listeners. We just lost everybody in Southern California. They're like, oh my gosh, those guys in their Indian style. So, in any case, some great deals that came across.
Yeah, a lot of good things are moving around. I mean, I can honestly say we've having a lot of fun with the note stuff. I mean, passive investors are coming. I mean, we're getting a whole nother wind of people that are coming in just on the passive side. We have people that want to participate as general partners on the syndication side. A lot more syndication deals are coming now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going on. But
if you guys are interested in looking at, let's say our fund is a great example. We've got some space, a couple $100,000 left to fund in our fund. Send Brian an email, brian@mrtxre.com. That's brian@mrtxre.com.
Yeah.
And we can get you, and we'll get you signed up on our portal, and you guys can look and see what we've got there that's available out there. We've got some first lien positions. We just did a $125K first lien. I think we have a couple of more. If for those of you who are real interested in debt financing and doing some first lien right out of your IRA, it's super passive, really kind of easy stuff to set up. It's a great way to get introduced to real estate.
Absolutely.
Without having to sign up for a guru and a $20,000 mentoring package and all that. So if you've got $125,000, we can find a spot in one of these first lien deals. Yeah. But yeah, we got all kinds of stuff going on over here. We haven't stopped since the coronavirus stuff started. We just keep moving forward.
Yeah, Texas has been one of the great states. I mean, it's people that are doing what we've been doing. I mean, it's only, I think, helped us to some degree. I mean, we've been, like you said, pushing ahead.
Yeah,
deals are still coming through. Nobody wants to be locked up. They want to work.
Yeah, they want to work. Want to get to work. Speaking of lock up, they're locking up Europe and parts of Australia and some other places right now. And here in Texas, what we're seeing was kind of interesting. We were meeting with a broker of ours. It's also a partner. And he said, man, I am doing really, really well right now. And he's on the luxury real estate side. And if you look at the numbers from HAR, people are moving up in size of house because they got to work from home. There's not much going on at the office. There's obviously still social distancing and masks and all that other stuff. So I anticipate that the single-family house is going to be the most important asset class, at least for the next 5 years through 2024 probably.
Yeah. Did you see that report that was sitting on that multifamily where Houston has the largest over the next, 5 years?
Yeah.
Like over a 7% population growth?
Yeah, so Houston nationwide is going to have the fastest population growth out of any city over the next 5 years. It's 7% a year, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of crazy when you think about it. And then Dallas, I think, was number 2. Everybody's moving here.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, I think that report was Q4 19 or maybe it was Q2 this year. I can't remember. But it was right before the coronavirus. So I'm telling you what's happening. Elon Musk is not the only rich guy that's looking around going, Southern California is great to hang out in, but if I have to operate a business and I want to go out to a restaurant, I'm moving to Texas. Oh, yeah. And mark my words, that corporate headquarters will go from Fremont to Texas. It might be Dallas, it might be Houston. They're not going to set up shop. Well, it could be Austin, but I don't think they're going to set up shop their corporate headquarters in Boca Chica just because it's a pain to get flights out of there. But it will more than likely be somewhere in Texas. It just will not surprise me at all because they don't want to be beholden to all that nonsense that's going on in Southern California. And I think the same thing with New York and New Jersey. A lot of those guys are looking around going, I'm a hedge fund manager. I make $10 million a year. What am I doing here? Yeah. Like, I think I just need to, if I can work digitally, then what am I doing here? Let's move to Texas. That makes the most sense.
You know what doesn't make any sense to me is like there's people here that live here in Houston and still worry that this market is possibly on a bubble.
I don't get it. I've gotten to the point where I've realized that most investors have a real hard. Let me back up. Most human beings have a problem with this. They cannot hold two competing ideas in their head at the same time. Yeah. It's a part of critical thinking. It's really hard to do. That's what I realize. It's something, and it's not something you're born with. You've just got to get used to it, right? Yeah. A lot of people who are in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, have to do it. It's part of the discipline. You have to be able to have the hypothesis and your null hypothesis, and they have to fight it out with each other as you're walking through the scientific method. So one of the biggest challenges for folks is, oh my gosh, real estate prices are going up, we're in a bubble. And I'm like, okay, well, explain to me why we're in a bubble. And they'll tell me prices are going up. Okay, well, can you articulate the counter argument why we're not in a bubble? And they go, well, that's impossible. And I'm like, well, let's put this idea aside, and then let's add this one over here and see if we can construct an argument around there's not a bubble. Mm-hmm. Maybe prices are too low, which I could actually make that argument very easily. You compare the rate of appreciation in Houston amongst some of the other markets across the country, I think it's still relatively inexpensive. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, looking at that multifamily report that was sent out, it was fascinating because those guys did some real homework. I wanted to say that our unemployment rate before Corona was like 3.2, and now it's under 5, I think. 5, yeah. And you've got to remember, we're in the middle of the coronavirus nonsense. So the hospitality industry, entertainment is being impacted. But we're also in the middle of the worst oil and gas crash ever. Mm-hmm. Like on an adjusted basis, this is worse than the 70s. And it's still relatively okay. Now, people are getting laid off and all that. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be good for the next year or two. But we're in the middle of the worst, and Houston's not doing bad. Yeah. People are still moving here. It's not going to stop.
Well, if oil and gas is having a tough time, rough time, why do you think people are still why there's so many people migrating to Austin, Dallas, Houston? Like, is it because of taxes?
Our economies are so much more advanced than just oil and gas. Yeah. Healthcare is obviously a huge component of that. They talked about that in that report. The Texas Medical Center, I think, is going to grow by another 40%. A lot of folks don't know the largest medical center in the world is right here in Houston. Now, inside the medical center, inside TMC proper, those are all nonprofits. A lot of people don't know that. Inside TMC proper is nonprofit. South Campus, which is on the other side of Brays Bayou, is for-profit. So the Texas Medical Center itself is the largest in the world. And then when you add in all of the auxiliary clinics and all that stuff that's around TMC, it's even bigger. But then a lot of folks don't know is TMC, the members of the Texas Medical Center operate thousands of clinics in all these outlying areas. Katy, Sugar Land, Woodland, Spring, all that other stuff. So it's a massive healthcare community. So a lot of that's healthcare driven. Obviously, finance is one,
Yeah.
business services, all that stuff. So Houston is a very diverse economy, and Dallas is a lot more business services, a little more white collar and that sort of thing. But I don't think, and of course, Austin's like the tech center, right? It's like second behind Silicon Valley. So the idea that Houston is this oil and gas hub is just really not true anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking, like, a lot of the friends that call me and ask me about where they think the market's going in the next 5-10 years. And I said, man, it's only going to get better. If you're not buying today, you're going to regret it 5 years, 10 years from now.
You're going to completely regret it.
I mean,
completely regret it.
The appreciation alone on the properties owned, like, I don't have a whole lot of houses that I hold, but gosh, my personal residence, my townhouse that I'm leasing out,
Yeah.
the condos that we own, we have one condo that we should have sold years ago, but we're probably going to hang on to it, let it rent.
Just let it rent, yeah. All right, when we get back, we'll talk more about the markets. Jason Bible, Brian Buhr, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Is that the fourth segment?
Third, just one more.
Okay, we've got one more.
We have 10 till. I'm going to go ahead and. So Jason, if I play this Zoom meeting and I mute the laptop, you think it'll still play audio for people that are screen sharing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it just won't come. There's no audio coming out of your computer itself.
But it's actually playing to where they can view. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, there's not gonna be anything playing on your speakers.
Okay. I'll just go ahead and cue it up. Yeah.
All right, you guys ready?
Ready?
Last segment. We're live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. Jason Bible, Brian Buhr, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We're talking about money, passive income, how to sit when you're in Japan. So, yeah, I think this is here's the challenge I put out there. I'm like, somebody explain to me a better market for real estate investors in Houston, Texas. It's the largest market in the country. It's 100 miles by 100 miles. It's 10,000 square miles. It's a gigantic market. So somebody tell me locate a better market for me where you can literally still go on to MLS and say, I'll buy that house, and this house will be worth 15% more a year from now, if not 20% more below the median home price. And it still cash flows.
Right.
That's going to end soon. You really got about 18 months, maybe 24 months before buying cash flowing real estate is going to become very difficult.
Yeah.
It's also the largest Airbnb market in the country. Now, why do I say that? Because the city of Houston has allowed Airbnb. They're collecting hotel taxes on Airbnbs. So when that happens, does the government just decide one day they're not going to, like, they've got a tax in place and then they're going to cancel that tax or nullify? No, that never happens, right?
If it makes money, they're going to keep it.
They're going to keep it. So that's exactly what's going on. So it's now the largest Airbnb market in the country. So the reality is, it's like this market's not going anywhere. It's only going to go up. It's only become more expensive. It'll be the third largest city inside of a decade, if it's not already. It's close behind Chicago. Depends on how many people move out of Chicago, right? So, it's just an absolutely amazing market, and it just gets better every day.
I wonder when the population hits that, when it becomes one of the largest cities, like top. Like how many people have to migrate here in order for it to be the most populated city in the United States?
Part of the challenge is it's not everybody lives in Houston, right? So if you're in Katy, that doesn't get. I don't know if that's by MSA or by city. I'm pulling it up right now. Let me pull it up.
Because the roads alone, I mean, if they don't look to expand these things quickly, which anytime the government's involved in anything, the city's involved with expanding anything, it's going to be way longer than the expected turnaround time.
So this is 2010 census, which, by the way, we're getting an updated census this year, right, in the middle of coronavirus. Houston grew by 10% in the last 10 years, and it's at 2.3 million, and Chicago is at 2.7 million. Chicago shrank by a little less than 1%. So we will probably surpass Chicago here pretty soon. And then LA is next at like 4 million, which is it's a whole different animal. It's pretty big. But most people don't live in the Metro Houston. There's about 7 million people when you add the entire Houston MSA, which is Sugarland, Woodlands, Pearland, Friendswood. You're going to miss Crosby, Woodlands, what's north? Cypress, Kingwood. That's kind of the Houston MSA. The joke is, and you'll see somebody will put that picture up, is Houston's an hour from Houston.
Yeah,
right. So
right.
I was chatting with a guy from, he said, hey man, I'm starting to do some deals in Orlando. I said, I love Tampa, Orlando. He goes, well, I'm in Orlando. Tampa's 2 hours away. I'm like, in Houston, 2 hours is still Houston, right?
Houston.
So I'm like, I kind of consider Tampa, Orlando, like one market. But anyways, it was kind of funny. So, but yeah, it's gonna keep growing, and it's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be better for us. Anybody that's buying and holding real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look at Phoenix. Phoenix is right behind Houston, 17% growth in a decade. And
That's crazy.
then number 6 is Philly, and guess what number 7 is? San Antonio. Number 9 is Dallas. Number 11 is Austin. 13 is Fort Worth. So if you include Dallas, Fort Worth, which they call the Metroplex, right? It's gigantic. So yeah, you go where the growth is.
Yeah.
For every 2 jobs created, 1 house is bought. And we're creating jobs down here. People are moving here. They're not moving here to get on, government assistance. So they're moving here for jobs and opportunity, and it's huge down here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What do you think is the most appreciation you've seen on any house that you've owned where you bought it? I know I had this on one of my rentals where I bought it for like 135. It later sold 4 years later, 3 years later for 170, 180.
The most we've seen since Rob and I got together is in Surfside. They've appreciated 30% in a year. And we bought 200 and, I'm trying to remember what we bought Rays for, 230? 210. And the exact same house across the street just sold for 270.
You guys are trying to buy quite a bit out there, aren't you?
Yeah, we just closed on Ocean, 2 on Texas, and another one. I think we just closed on 4 more. I've got 8 beach houses down there now. I think we have a total of almost 30 Airbnb units. So when we buy a duplex, it's 2 Airbnb units. So we've got a couple that are 2s, 3s, that sort of thing. But yeah, we're at 30 Airbnb units, and can't buy enough down in Surfside. Yeah. And this is a hypothesis we had that was then verified by the guy that's the CEO of Airbnb. And our hypothesis was, well, since COVID, international travel is going to go to almost zero. And it's going to be a long time before it comes back. So a lot of families are saying, well, we're going to spend 10 grand on a European vacation. Why don't we just put $20,000, $30,000 down on a beach house and enjoy it for a couple of years, and then we can start traveling again. That's exactly what's happening. The CEO of Airbnb said most Americans are not traveling more than 200 miles from the place where they live. That's why Airbnb is just going gangbusters right now. And for those of us in the vacation rental space, we're doing really well.
Yeah. And actually, I hadn't been to Surfside until that last time when we went out there to go look at that, one of the properties out there. And I was actually really surprised on how nice it was. It's quiet out there. The water's beautiful. And I had never been to Surfside. And I've gone to Galveston, never been out there.
It is a beach town from the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's going to change real fast in the next couple of years. It's going to become very expensive because there's not a lot of places to build. I see a lot of new builds going up. There's just not a lot of land.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of those, there's actually sub-neighborhoods in there, and they have their own lot size requirements. So you're not going to be able to take a 10,000 square foot lot and put a bunch of 800 square foot houses on and then chop it up and sell like you can in Galveston. So it's going to get really expensive down there very quickly. So it'll be really interesting to see. And the beach is fantastic down there. It's better in Galveston all day long, and twice on Sunday.
That's right.
It's way better in Galveston. All day, yeah. A-Rock's been down there. He's like, trust me, it's much better. It's much better. Yeah, beach is great. And since the hurricane, last couple of hurricanes, the beach, when we get into low tide, the beach has got to be 200 yards long. I mean, it is awesome. So it's a great place. If you've got kids, it's real shallow for a long way out. So kids can go out and play. You don't have to worry about them drowning, you know. My kids just drown each other. They usually just get out in the ocean, just fight with each other, like wrestling and all that stuff. So they have a good time with it. But in any case, so that's kind of the lay of the land, if you will, as far as appreciation and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's not going to be uncommon below, let's say $250,000, $300,000 here in Houston to have houses appreciate between 15 and 20%. And that's really what our fund does. Like our fund focuses on those sorts of houses. So massive amount of equity, a lot of appreciation. It's not going to stop. I will tell you, for those of you in the debt business, I think there's some real risk there. You know, if you're holding on to 30-year, 15-year, you know, long-term notes because of all the money that's being printed in Washington, I'd really watch that. But again, if you have to take a house back, it will have appreciated so much. It's not going to, there's no worry there.
Right.
You know, if you got to take a house back in 7 years, no big deal. So that's the only thing if there's one area of concern in real estate, it's really on the long-term note side. We can talk about that at another time. But anyways, thanks for being on the show, guys. Brian and I will be right back and give you guys a special message. And that's it. We got a webinar at 1. See you guys.
See ya.
See, look at that. It's painless.
That's good.
Just did 90% of talking.
You did great.
Oh, you got plenty of time.
Already, that's already.